Williamson said, the practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to healing the world. So we're going to start with ourselves today, but always be mindful that this is going to help create world peace, because it only starts in our own hearts and souls. My deep gratitude to Heartfulness Institute and to Nupur Kotari. Heartfulness as a Meaningful World nurtures collaboration and has branches around the world and is affiliated with the UN, just as us, and providing free support to the community in distress and empowering self and others, starting with the self-love. And forgiveness is a very important, necessary prerequisite to loving ourselves and others. We've worked in 48 countries and founded in 1988. And we're really happy to establish and nurture this wonderful collaboration with Nupur and the Heartfulness Institute. The quote of the day is, anger is one letter away from danger. And darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. February this month is the month for us to be more aware of African studies and people who are in African American contribute to our literature and development. When we are addressing forgiveness, we are addressing some sort of trauma, some sort of infidelity, hurt, and disappointment or frustration. It usually stems from a trauma, could be long standing from your childhood, ongoing trauma, individual trauma, collective trauma, like the trauma of COVID pandemic and racial pandemic that we have been experiencing, vicarious trauma, those who are working, they're doctors, psychologists, and healers working with traumatized people can have secondary or vicarious trauma, generational trauma, which I suffered from for a long time, coming from a child of Ottoman, a survivor of Ottoman Turkish genocide of Armenians and Christian minorities in Turkey, as well as horizontal trauma. Now, while you're listening, I'm going to do 15 minutes of introduction and then go into experiential session. Try to think of your own trauma that you want to work on today, or you want to at least take the first step, considering that person or situation or yourself that you like to forgive. Because treating a wound, a physical wound, trauma is an emotional wound. And we can't just skip all the steps and jump into forgiveness. We cannot forgive before we heal the trauma. That is very important, and I cannot emphasize. On a lighter note, it's like you don't condition your hair before washing it well, before you don't blow dry your hair and style it before you go through the steps of first washing and conditioning, etc. The same way, trauma and healing from it and establishing forgiveness has steps. They're simple and but they take time. How long? I got a call this morning saying, well, how long does it take? How many sessions of EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing? And I said, well, it depends. How long has been the trauma? Is it from childhood? How many years have the person endured it? Is it a one-time trauma, or is it an ongoing trauma? And how old is the person, and how committed are they to heal it? Because it may take 2 or 3 sessions a week. So there's no one set formula that is applied to all. So the horizontal violence is something that a lot of people are not aware of. I'm sure maybe you have heard crab in the bucket syndrome. African Americans use this a lot in the South of America. because African Americans are discriminated a lot and oppressed. So horizontal violence is the phenomenon of oppressed people. When we are oppressed for a long time, pressure is coming from up the system down to the people. And the frustration and the hurt and disappointment is building from down in from the hearts of the people and going up and up and up, but there's nowhere to go up because we're still being pressed. The system continues its oppressive system. So what happens is that we blow up horizontally, and it goes horizontally, which is affecting the very people that we love, our brothers and sisters. If you have seen crabs in the bucket, one tries to come up, second one brings it down, third one tries to come out, fourth is bringing it down. So no crab gets out of the bucket. And that's what we do. We internalize the oppressors' comments and perspectives and oppression. And then we dump it on our people, our own kind. And we call it our own disease, because in Haiti, in Sierra Leone, in Armenia, in Palestine, they all called it, oh, it's a Haitian disease, oh, it's an Armenian disease. But it's not. It's an oppressed group of people's psyche. We making negative statements about ourselves and about our own kind, and being and acting envious and jealous and putting one another down. Those are all signs of horizontal violence. So forgiveness helps us transform trauma. Forgiveness can enable people to move beyond the hurt, the pain, the heart-wrenching that we feel. Some of my clients have said it's like an elephant sitting and stomping on my heart. They're often result of long-term trauma, and could be from childhood, could be collective, could be many kinds. So if you have a chance, try to read Forgiveness and Reconciliation. This is the book that I use at Columbia University for the course that I teach. And it's an international perspective on forgiveness. And as Nupur mentioned, Forget Me Not has the 7 steps, the very 7 steps that I'm talking about today, and we're going to experience it today. And for those who are interested, if you send me just $10 for the shipping and handling, I'll be happy to send the book to you with your mailing address for the participants of today's workshop. As Gandhi said, forgiveness, the weak cannot never forgive. Forgiveness is an attribute of the strong. We at Meaningful World don't call it weak or strong. We try to help people to achieve forgiveness through the steps that we'll be talking about later. So what is forgiveness? A lot of confusion about what is forgiveness. Even the dictionary has a totally different definition. It says letting go, foregoing all claims and all justice and everything. It's not like that. So for me, forgiveness is shifting from the knee-jerk automatic ego-based reaction. What is the ego-based reaction? Somebody hurts you, you want to hurt them back. And I've heard this over and over, clients saying, I want to make sure they are hurting more than they hurt me. But 2 people hurt is not the solution, because if I am bleeding and I make you bleed, so how are we helping the problem of bleeding? We're not helping the problem. We're creating more problem. So shifting from that automatic knee-jerk reaction of hurting back to a non-reactive response. See, the difference between reaction and response is very important. Whenever you feel like you're reacting, you have to stop and say, I don't want the other person controlling my response, my behavior, because reaction almost 99% of the time is due to what somebody else did, and you are just upset, frustrated, and you're going to react. and quote unquote show them. But that's just going to make two people suffer. So the response has to be non-reactive. Remember what the Miguel Ruiz says: don't take anything personally. Don't react. Don't assume. So if you don't take things personally and you distance, take few steps back and look at it like it's a situation that's happening to someone else, then the true authentic response will reveal itself. Considering that the other person is also a human being, most probably they're not mindful. Who in the right mind want to hurt someone else? They are going through some mindless moment. So we therefore separated the four from giving to make a point that this is a gift to you, to the self. A lot of the time when clients come and we talk about forgiveness, they say, oh, I don't want to give her that gift, and I don't want to give him that gift. They should suffer like I did. But the gift is giving to yourself the peace of mind, for giving care to yourself, for going on in your happy life instead of carrying that heavy burden on your heart and your back, and your back is hurting, your blood pressure is going up, etc., and for getting on with your life. Because when you don't forgive, guess what? You're carrying that person that you don't like with you, and that's creating you a lot of problems. And a lot of people say, well, I hate them, I don't want to forgive. And some other people may say something else. And Maya Angelou says, hate, it has caused us a lot of problems in this world, but it has not solved one issue yet. So the solution is to disarm ourselves from the poison, because anger is a poison, and that includes negativity, greed, envy, rage, all that. When we look at scientific data, and you can search this yourself at apa.org, you will see that the anger, violence, and being out of control, punching things and slamming doors, all this is affecting our neurological system, a skeletal, our immune system, our lungs, our brain, our skin, gastrointestinal, heart, respiratory, adrenal, and so many other challenges, including hormones like thyroid that gets slowed down, and then you don't have the energy to even work or do your daily responsibilities. The other part of anger and negative emotions is that it could be lodged in your body. Trauma, as Bessel van der Kolk has a book, wonderful book, says, our cells keep the score. In that, it is showing all the research about how trauma and violence affects our body, and it's stamped like a stamp in our cells, and it passes on through DNA to 14 generations. That's pretty scary for me. And it's something that we all need to be aware and start working on our own trauma as well as our family. So the sooner we get to a point of release, letting go, the better it is, because holding on is really creating a lot of tension and pathological problems in our life, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So we recommend highly to nurture emotional intelligence. Every trauma, every unforgiving situation has an underlying feeling. Try not to identify with the anger, because the anger is just a byproduct. There's a lot of negative emotions you see here, example of them brewing under, that causes us to act in an angry way. So is it disappointment? Is it fear? Is it hurt? Is it the guilt or embarrassment? You need to identify that yourself. Nobody can do that for you. Once you identify, then you measure. We're going to talk more about that a little later. So, learning about forgiveness is a choice and it's a practice, just like meditation practice, yoga practice. It's not like you get at a level, that's it. No, we're always in practice. We have to do it several times a week to maintain a healthy level of life. It's not something that we can say, oh, a month ago I already forgave, I'm not going to do it again. It just doesn't work that way. Our perceptions and attitudes are a choice, and we need to choose this in a mindful way. Forgive people in your life, even those who are not sorry for their actions. Holding on to anger only hurts you, not them. This is another, often clients tell me, well, she didn't even ask me for forgiveness or apologize. You know, he has to come down on his knees first, apologize, then I'll think about it. But that means that you're going to hold off your healing and wait for somebody else who wasn't even mindful that they hurt you from beginning. Now you're expecting somebody who's not mindful to come and give you on a silver platter acknowledgement and mindfulness. That's not going to happen. If that happens, that's great, but don't hold your breath and your healing and wait for someone else to change. No, that's not going to be constructive. So, what happens if we don't forgive? Then our anxiety is higher, we have higher levels of anger, we have feelings of hatred, compulsions, hurt, fear, resentment, inflexibility. No, I'm going to wait until he comes and expresses forgiveness. Now, there are a lot of collective traumas like that. So many people, so many Armenians. I come from an Armenian family. I've heard many people say, no, we have to wait until the Turkish government acknowledges the genocide. No, I'm gonna stay angry until the Turkish government acknowledges. Well, guess what? 106 years they haven't acknowledged. They're not gonna jump tomorrow and have consciousness and say, oh, it happened. Let's get it straight here and work on our own perspective and our own validation. And it also causes a lot of horizontal violence and may cause depression, addiction, even suicide. So we need to be very mindful and keep the benefits of forgiveness alive in our mind, and always knowing that it's for us. It's a gift for our heart, for our health, for our well-being, for our harmony, oneness, and peace. It frees us from chains of hatred and anger, because you are like with a chain attached to the person who perpetrated that trauma to you. If you don't forgive, it opens us to the possibility of love, loving ourselves and loving others, yields our grip on misery, improves our character, broadens our point of view, and gives us this see-through like an x-ray vision, cleanses our soul from resentment and fear, helps us rely on compassion and caring, helps us develop gratefulness. We talked about that last time, clears our consciousness, helps us develop wholeness, passion, and commitment, helps our self-transcendence, which is key for our salvation, and helps us accept our fate, not argue and fight with it, but find a way to heal and come to an acceptance. So there are, of course, many myths about forgiveness, all excuses, or let's say some false statements people believe in. If I forgive, I will forget. If I forgive, you'll do it again. Just the opposite. If I forgive, the enemy will be set free. There's nothing, justice does not depend on your anger, just the opposite. You can strive to get justice through your healing. If I forgive, I will hurt those who died. No. If I forgive, there will be no justice. No. If I forgive, I will no longer be a victim. This is huge. We need to work on that so you don't identify with victimhood, but transform your victimhood and become a victor. I need the anger to survive, and I must wait for the enemy to acknowledge and ask for forgiveness first. And only survivors themselves can forgive, not the offsprings. Or only God, Allah, and Buddha can forgive, not humans. That's also very false. So I'd like to thank our really a very wonderful person, Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, for giving me this insight about the importance of forgiveness. He's, if you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning, please, I really, really, I cannot emphasize it more, the importance of it. And before even trying to grapple with forgiveness is after you heal, is finding a lesson, finding a deeper meaning in your journey. That's going to be the shift. How can we discover a new meaning in our life? And according to Viktor Frankl, every difficult situation, every challenging experience, every the challenging person that comes into our life is another lesson for us waiting to be discovered. Now, of course, we don't want to search for difficult people. I'm not promoting that or difficult experiences. But when they do happen, always try to ask, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I do now about this? Uh, Instead of asking, usually the victim question would be, and the victim mindset would be, why did this happen to me? Oh my God, I'm so stupid and terrible and not worthy. And all the critic and the judge comes into our mind and starts putting us down. So you need to change that to, what can I do about it now that this situation happened? And there are differences between the meaning of this moment as opposed to my meaning of life, global meaning in general. So meaning making is like putting a silver lining around the cloud, as they say, is the ability to make sense of the nonsense, create a way to accept the situation we are in instead of continue fighting with it, keep going in the face of adversity, learning to become more creative. That's very important, that we find creative ways to look at our situation or change our situation or learn from our situation. To improve our life, maximize our potential, and find happiness and success and create world peace. So logotherapy is the meaning centered therapy that Viktor Frankl is the grandfather. Meanings and meaning can be clouded, covered, repressed. So all the fear and the sadness and the trauma and the anxieties can cloud and cover. So we have just like a diamond. Have you seen diamond that is really raw from, like we've seen in Africa? It looks terrible. It looks like very dirty and it doesn't have any brilliance even. So you have to go through a lot of cleaning, going through procedures to be able to find the brilliance. Finding meaning is just like that, finding a diamond and then working on it. Not just saying, oh, I got it, that's it. No, we have to continuously nurture that, work on it. And if we don't, then we will have existential vacuum. Existential vacuum can cause us to substance abuse and compulsive sexual acts and other negative behaviors. And many of you, of course, remember just recently there was a ring of pedophiliacs that they were caught, that they were abusing children around the world. So those are people suffering from extreme existential vacuum, that they have to engage in those kinds of behaviors. So the soul, as Leo Tolstoy said a while ago, the sole meaning of life is to serve humanity. So a lot of people, and before that, Khalil Gibran also said, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of your heart. Service is from the heart that you truly give." So, meaning is not supposed to be connected to people. Sometimes I ask people, what is meaningful in your life? And they tell me their house, their friend, their lover or husband or wife. So that is very superficial. Meaning has to be deeper, value, virtue, something that you will share with the world, because house, cars, friends, they come and go. These are not values that we can put deeper meaning into them. If we do, then we will be disappointed and hurt and frustrated and in trauma all the time. So we talked about creative expressions before. If you're having difficulty talking about your experience, because sometimes it's so traumatic that people have suppressed it for 40 years, they cannot talk about it. So we encourage people to paint, to write in journals, to write poetry, to just write for discharge. It doesn't have to be that it's going to go in a museum or it has to be perfect. No, it's just expression of your feelings, letting it out. And we need to start to teach these from kindergarten with children, so it becomes an important part of their daily practice, because it's kind of gets harder when we get older and set in our ways and our reactive method, and it's difficult to learn about not reacting and being responsive. And the next area is having deeper connection with Mother Nature and Gaia, and feeling connected with the trees and vegetation. That helps us feel more secure, because a lot of our issues are grown from our sense of insecurity. We feel so small next to that huge, beautiful tree that we do stupid things because we feel insecure as a human being. So we need to be grounded and nurture um, Mother Earth, and feel the nurturance that comes from Mother Earth, and have deep faith, whatever it is. Very important to have deep faith. So now we're going to walk you through the 7 steps to achieving forgiveness through release of the trauma. So imagine that you have some unresolved issue with a friend, with a parent, with a partner, with a spouse, with your child. Imagine that situation as we are going through these steps. Now think about the feeling you have from that situation, and ask yourself. I'm not going to go remind you back, show you the other slide, but it basically this. I would ask you to focus not on the anger, but is it disappointment? Is it fear? Is it worry? Is it embarrassment? Is it frustration? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Identify the feeling. It's very important. Once you do that, ask yourself from 0 to 10, 10 being the most severe feeling. Measure your feeling. Now, when I was growing up, I had a lot of frustration and hurt from the generational trauma from my father due to the Ottoman Turkish genocide. And that affected my attitude. I was easily frustrated, easily angered and reactive, and I had a lot of GI issues. So try to really be honest with yourself and write it down, whatever that is, and measure it, put the number there. Anytime the number is higher than 4, it is a sign that you have to do something about it immediately. If not today, then please join us at every Thursday. We have a support group at noon, and you can release and tell us about your feelings, and we can help you through, because the whole 1 hour is about the 7 steps of release. So once you find the level, you write that down. Again, I like to caution you, if it's above 4, I would not really engage in difficult situations, because from 4, it's very easy. It's like Corvette car or Porsche. It goes from 0 to 60 immediately, like in a second. And it could be, you would be yelling at your boss or your professor or your important person at your work or your home, and really destroy a good relationship, because after 4, it's difficult to control. It's like you're skidding, that you can't really manage the driving. If it's a vehicle, let's say, our emotions, if they were a vehicle, anytime we go over the speed of 25 or 30, remember what they say, right? You would have more accidents, and the accident would be more fatal. We need to manage that our emotions don't go above level 4. If they are, then we need to also address that, which is the next step: release, catharsis. We have no external drives, nowhere in our body that we can store these emotions. And if we don't release them, then they're going to affect our organs one by one and destroy us physically. So we would write about it, talk about it in a group, talk about it with a best friend, close friend, that you know they're empathic and not judgmental and not gossipy, that they would carry this information to others. And then seek empathy. So you want someone not to distract you and say, oh, why are you thinking about something happened 40 years ago? Let's go out and have a drink and forget about it. If she hasn't resolved that trauma, she's not going to rest and forget about it. She needs to talk, and you can do a lot by encouraging the person and saying, okay, I'm here for you. I have tissues for you. Tell me more. Not stop crying, not, oh, you shouldn't feel that. You know, that was 10 years ago or last year. Don't feel that. Feelings are there. They're like clouds. You can't say, cloud, get away. It's going to go through its cycle. It's going to rain or snow, and then it's going to go away. It doesn't go away just because you don't want it there. So to be patient and to know the different ways you can release, as I mentioned, writing, painting, singing, reciting, writing poetry, journaling, writing your dreams, because dreams also let you know how that trauma is affecting you. Because during the day, we try to contain ourselves and push everything down. We push so much, sometimes it doesn't even, we don't let it surface. The third part, which is empathy and validation, is also very essential. according to Harry Stack Sullivan, that is the most important step to achieve closure from the trauma that we're suffering. So how do we do that? Just being there, letting the person release all the trauma. Just like when we have a wound on our arm, let's say, or hand, we want to squeeze that pus, the infection out. We don't want to put a band-aid and say, oh, you're better now. No, you're not. It's going to go into your system. Then you're going to have to take antibiotics, or they have to cut the hand and manually take the poison out, or the pus, the infection. So you cannot just push it and put a band-aid on. Nothing is going to disappear like that. Emotions are layered by layer, and we need to release them. And don't say that, oh, you told me that last week. Well, I guess she needs to talk more. If it's difficult with you, then recommend maybe a therapist for them so they can talk freely with somebody with no judgment, and with the profession to be able to release. Sometimes friends are very short-tempered, and they just don't have the capacity to empathize. And the other thing is, when your friend is also traumatized, they can't empathize with you, because they start then comparing. Well, that's nothing. You know what happened to me? And then they go on with their trauma, and you are left there. You're bleeding. Your wound is oozing, and nobody even is taking care of it, because now she opened up her wound. Now both of you are bleeding. We do that often too without being aware of. So when a person is releasing, just hold on there and say, I'm here. Here is a tissue. Is there anything else I can do? I'm here. I'm listening. Not being judgmental, not comparing your trauma with them, not telling them how to feel, but being there without judgment, holding the space and letting them cry or whatever it is they need to do. Once these 3 steps are done, then you're in step 4. You're a victor now. You're no longer a victim, because now you see the light. You start seeing these, discovering lessons you learned that you never knew before. And these lessons, you put them like steps, you go on top of them, and here you are. You're seeing another perspective. Because when you're on top of 3, 4 steps, you start seeing the top of the trees and a new horizon. So that even gives you more hope and gives you more encouragement. Wow, I suffered, yes, but I learned so much that I didn't learn this even with my 2 doctorates. And then not stop there, but educate yourself. Empower yourself in step 5, seeking new resources, websites, books to read, maybe different music and different kind of modalities, like EMDR, for example, is very good for emotional trauma. Electromagnetic field balancing, it's very good to work with the generational fiber that we carry without knowing. A different kind of complementary healing, which will take us to step 6, which is connecting with Mother Earth, doing things with trees, planting, taking care of, working with different healing herbs such as lavender, rosemary, sage, etc. And then finding ways to exercise the body. Remember what I said earlier, trauma is lodged in our cells. So we cannot just sit and talk. We need to move the body and make the body perspire, where you start feeling a little bit of in your forehead or other parts of your body, little droplets of perspiration, you need to move the body, exert it. It could be in yoga, it could be in Tai Chi, Taekwondo, it could be fast walking and swimming. But the top three are really wonderful for emotional healing: yoga, Taekwondo, Tai Chi. And we have another way, soul surfing, we call it. And we'd be happy to send, Nupur, I'll send you the link you can share with the audience. And that is essential. Physical movement is very essential for our trauma healing and for us to achieve forgiveness. Because if we are keep holding the trauma in our body, we will not be able to forgive. We end with meditation, and I know Nupur has a wonderful meditation to guide us. I just have 2 slides to end my presentation. This one is a wonderful sculpture at the Cathedral St. John the Divine in New York City. And this is a human silhouette made by a Native American. And you see another one smaller and smaller, and a red dot signifying the unborn fetus. And there are 7 in this. And the message there is, in all your deliberations and decisions, always be mindful how your decisions are impacting the next 7 generations. Well, then the sculpture says 7 generations, but I revise it because the current research shows that through DNA, it impacts 14 generations. And this wonderful photo in southern India. And
If anybody has any question, you can unmute yourself or you can post them on the chat group. Dr. Kalayjian, Sunil has a question. Sunil, go ahead. You want to unmute and
thank you, Nupur, and you're all doing this beautiful session. My one question, clarification is, this is very nice, and I'm very glad that I'm joining this. The question I have is that when you rate 1 to 10, can you give us a scenario based? What is 1, what is 4, and what is 6 or 10? Some example of that's very subjective, I suppose. How do we
yes,
do that?
it definitely is very, very subjective. I would say that if you try to take the scale, because it's 10, half of it is 5, and then your feeling has to be at least half intense, lower than half, lower than 5. So 3 to 4. For example, if it's something that you are thinking about it all day, that must be around 10. If you think about it once in a while and you don't have physical reactions, like when you think about the person who caused you a challenging situation or harm, and you really want to go and hurt them, then definitely that's 10. But if you're thinking about it and you're trying to process it, but you don't feel like urge to hurt others, hurt yourself, have negative thoughts in between your ears, in your mind, then if you're handling it well, in your opinion, because this is very subjective, you have to think about both physical, emotional, the vibrations. When you think about that situation, where in your body are you feeling any tension, any vibrations, any heat or cold? And are you having difficulty sleeping at night because you're thinking about this situation? So all those are important ways for you to measure and realize how intense that situation is impacting you.
Thank you so much. And maybe you can share that information about Tuesday 12 o'clock session you conduct. Maybe some of us could join that session if that is okay with you.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'll forward that flyer to you, Nupur, immediately, and I can do it even now through texting, and then you can forward it to everyone. We've been having it since March last year, and it's a very wonderful way to individually listen to people and have them encourage a release of their issue or situation. And then the group, we have several people that are trained to express empathy and validation to you. And then we go through the steps and end with meditation. This is the slide that was my last one in southern India, and I love to share this at every lecture because it's very significant on what one person can do to contribute to humanity and to world peace. And this is a valley in southern India that was barren. There was nothing going here except rocks and stones. And she put it into her goal that she will every spring come and bring some seeds and flower bulbs here. And over 25 years until she passed away. And she's gone for a long time, but this photo of it virtually is transmitted, and it's passing around, and it's bringing hope to everyone, because just like the rainbow colors and chakra colors, you see all the vibrant purple and yellow, green and orange and red. And my question is, where are your seeds and flower bulbs, and how committed and purposeful you are in bringing change to humanity, starting with yourself?
I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, I want to say thank you for your presentation and taking this time out today on the weekend.
Oh,
what about people mistaking your forgiveness for weakness? Or, they think they can just keep treating you this way because they don't seem to understand that you're forgiving yourself and them. Do you understand what I mean?
I think I understood. Let me try. That's
Okay.
such an important question. I always emphasize it, and I didn't have a chance today. The value of self-protection. It does not mean by this workshop, I do not promote that you should be in a dysfunctional relationship and keep forgiving and staying in dysfunctional relationship. Just the opposite. You need to be mindful and distance yourself, always protecting yourself. And forgiveness does not in any way mean reconciliation. That is your choice. If you like to reconciliate, if you feel that that person has changed as well as you have, then you will engage in a meaningful relationship with them, but not before that. Forgiveness just means that you are letting go that chain and expectation and the pain and the connection with the perpetrator. Always self-protect and assert yourself with strict limits and strict boundaries so that that does not happen. And a lot of people keep saying, well, forgiveness is for sissies or Pollyanna, and I don't want to keep being hurt. No, it doesn't mean you're going to keep hurt. Once you learn the lesson, you are selective and you smell that abusive person and you stay away, protecting yourself.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Well, most welcome. Thank you for reminding me.